Oh, not the stethoscope.
It's not good.
Yeah, I know. Let's see if
What's that all about? I don't want it to be ringing.
Huh?
When you check for
yeah, exactly. It's a bit broken. Just so you got a heart defect with that. It's just a broken stethoscope.
Cool.
Yes.
I've got some stories for you. And as you know, the last couple of months I've been on a bit of a sabbatical, traveling.
Yeah, been gallivanting.
Going back to the motherland. You know, for me that's twofold: a bit of Senegal, a bit of Tunisia. And it's been something that's been a long time coming for me. Yes. And my mum was adamant. She was like, you just need to do it, especially post-uni, post trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. Yeah. And she kept coming up with this word in French. She kept saying, like, you need to go back. And she was like, tu as besoin de faire un ressourcement. Oh, okay. You know, it's like ressourcement. So if you break that word down, ressourcement, it's like, I guess the translation we're talking about is like resourcing yourself.
Yeah,
you know, like,
okay. That's kind of what I got from it.
Do you know what I mean? So like, being away from there, you might have depleted those sources by being around a certain amount of things. So it's kind of like for Senegal, sorry, I hadn't been there for like 2.5 years. Yeah. Tunisia, it was 6.5 years. Wow. And those are all the entire part of my childhood where I grew up and where everything. So I thought it was really interesting to focus on this term and how for me it genuinely has made a difference. Incredible. I can't quite quantify it or specifically be like what the vitamin D, the sunshine, being around all the family, the people who knew you from young, who raised you, all those. I can't quantify or explain what good it's done me. Yeah. But it really has been something. And I'm sure that something might be a bit difficult for you to relate because I can't remember the last time you've been to
for me,
Cameroon, but it might be something that you really long.
It definitely is. There definitely is a longing for something. And like you said, it's hard to quantify. I haven't put into words how it feels sometimes going back to something of your childhood, where you came from and all those things. So wherever it may be, I think there definitely is a reconnecting, you know, like you feel like you need to be plugged back in a little bit to recharge, resource yourself and things like that, because that is where your source is. So talking about your source and getting connected with that, I can't imagine what good it does, and I long for it so much. It's been probably nearing 10 years now since I went back to Cameroon, and I can't imagine what it could do for me. Probably incredible things, because I think I grew up as well, the first 5-6 years, family there that saw you grow up as a child and what they might know about you, the stories that they tell about you, so you can discover yourself as a child as well and connect back to your upbringing. Honestly, I think it really does a lot.
Exactly.
There's a sociological study that I read about loneliness, actually. Okay. And it said that sometimes when you feel lonely, it's because you're not just, because we're talking about connecting to your roots, but it's not even just about connecting to your roots, but also about being connected to where you're from, not in the sense of geographical location, but as human beings, we're born and
come like part from of identity.
The world, actually, Earth. We're saying sometimes we're too disconnected from Mother Nature itself. It seems very like what's the word? Like I'm an Earth warrior. Right. when I say these things, because I did agree with it. But I'm not an Earth warrior. But I thought it was quite deep to hear the sense of we are human beings. We come from the Earth. We're part of nature, but we're very disconnected from nature. Yeah. And it was just kind of arguing that from a sociological perspective, being so disconnected from nature, for instance, there's always light, so you never really are connected to your circadian rhythm and the lightness and darkness of nature. You've always got heating, so you're never connected really to. I mean, you might feel connected since you've been in Manchester, but I've never truly connected to the seasons, because there's always something to buffer that. So there's just saying part of the loneliness also comes from not being connected to where you're from, and where you're from meaning
I see what you mean,
Mother Nature and nature as human beings.
So that's part of our loneliness in general. Like if you're talking about people,
because there's a massive rise in loneliness in the West. It's like a very like an epidemic of loneliness
I see what you
going
mean.
on right now,
That's
especially in the
interesting.
elderly and especially in the youth. But
Mm.
yeah, so I thought that was quite interesting, just talking about roots and upbringing, and also your nature as human beings. So, but not particularly an earth warrior, I wouldn't say, but
Yeah. It's
I
so
definitely
interesting.
find it
It's so interesting, and I think this is something I think we could genuinely talk hours about when it comes to that whole idea of, for me, especially as someone who's mixed, and for you as someone who's not been home for a while, there's an element of beyond just all of that. We talk about blackness as a whole, being black, growing up in society where it's seen in a type of way. And there's a really interesting show I watched on Netflix about a relationship between this mum and her dad who just came out of prison. And inadvertently, there's an episode called The Negrescence, right? It's like Negro Essence, right? And it's actually about her son who's mixed. So she's black, her son's mixed, white American dad. And he's grown up kind of traditionally as a nerd, like a black nerd with like glasses, like does all the not black stuff basically. And so she takes him back to her home state. And I guess back then a lot of it might have been like down south, you know, like there's certain down south parts of America where there was a lot of slavery and whatnot, where it's a home to a lot of black people. So she brought him down there, and he was trying the food. She was seeing all the people, and he went through this negrescence, as the dad called it, which is so funny, but also like as someone trying to like within that, it's something that you're trying to figure out and understand, and I don't necessarily think it's about color, about being black. I think it's about whoever's trying to figure themselves out. White, whoever it is, like it is about going through this something essence of yourself. So like you said, it's not just about going there. It could be like you're from here, but your roots are in Scotland, for example. That sort of stuff. So
did you find yourself discovering your essence as well then?
Discovering my essence, and I think it's just, I'll tell you like a funny story for me was that like I'm the firstborn of my generation. And I think from the Senegalese perspective anyways, I was the firstborn of my generation for like 4 years. So I had all the attention of my aunts and uncles and everything, and my parents would travel. And so my aunt the other day, she's like head cook, she like just cooks amazing food all the time. So I'm always like hanging around her, food related. And then she goes, do you remember some of the things of your child? I was like, I don't. I mean, I know I was probably spoiled and everything. And she was like, there's something really funny one time where your parents were traveling, they left you with us. And back in the day, you know how TVs were like fat TVs, had a big back. Nothing. You know, we've got the slim now, but it was all about the. And I used to watch a lot of TV when I was younger. And one time I was very curious about the people in the TV. As in the image that I was seeing. And because I saw a box, my little brain assumed that there's people inside the TV. So I took a cup of water and I poured it. This is her telling me, and I poured it behind the TV to try and get them to come out. You are such a menace. I was like intrigued from day one. I was trying to figure out what was going on.
Menace, that's crazy.
And it's just the little things like that where you're told that what kind of person you were, what kind of. Especially when I deal with my younger cousins, I'm like, these guys are nuisances. So annoying. And everyone's like, you should assume that you were.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Oh my
goodness. There's an element of it that's just so nice and innocent, and you're like,
oh my goodness. I like that. That was a great story.
But no, I certainly, and I hope that sooner rather than later, you can go through this resourcement. I think it's an important word, the resourcement. You can go through it and you can feel that and be like, and appreciate what it has to offer in terms of your life moving forward. For me, I think not everyone needs it like every so often or whatever. Like you need it when you need it. Like for me, it's because I was going through that stage of like not knowing what's next, feeling certainly lost with everything. I was just kind of like, let me go back to a place I know, people who know me, things that are familiar, to then be able to propel forward. And funny enough, I would say that was when I was in Senegal. I think it was like December 12th or December 14th, 1 a.m., where I was like, I want to do this podcast.
This when I heard that, I knew, because I was doing my night shift.
Well, I feel like I've been resourced.
That's great. Because I remember, you messaged me. I was doing my night shift, and they usually go on my phone. Usually leave it alone, but mainly because no one texted me at that time. But then I heard a ding, and I was like, "There's nothing going on." So I checked. I was like, "Why are you messaging me at this time?" But I saw the message, and I was like, "Okay, interesting." Just having those. We talked in our last podcast about sometimes your thoughts that you have late at night.
Yeah.
So I guess I thought maybe that's just what it was, but it was something actually deeper than that.
Maybe, without realizing, I couldn't quantify having that motivation and the things that I've been struggling to find for a while, and moving forward with that. But yeah, recently, I went to Tunisia with my sister and my dad. Right, so my dad was there. That's my side of the family there with my dad. So me and my sister were like, we need to go back. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And we went back. And on the last day, my sister needed to travel back to the UK.
Okay.
And her flight was at maybe like 6 in the morning.
Okay.
We needed to leave the house at 6 in the morning. So we came back after seeing family and stuff late that night. She packed, and we kind of stayed up all night with our cousins just discussing. It was good vibes, right? Okay. So it took her to the airport, and she was a bit tired. But she was like, did that thing. Yeah. She went her way. I went my own way. Yeah. We went back home, and I went to sleep. Yeah. Wake up dropped her off at 6 in the morning. Must have woken up at like 12 or 1. Okay. To receive a message. What I assumed I would have received a WhatsApp being like, "Oh, by the way, guys, I'm home." To receive a message going, "Emergency landing in Italy right now."
Wow.
And I was like,
"No way."
I was sat at the lunch table at this point. I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And it's so funny because sometimes, when you respond in your head but don't respond on your phone. Later on, when I saw my sister like a week later, she's like, "You didn't even respond."
Yeah, I see you mean that. You're thinking.
I'm so sorry.
You look at the message, you respond.
The food distracted me. I was about to eat. I was like,
"Oh my goodness." Sis. Yeah, exactly.
So then I was like, I need to get to the bottom of this. What's happened? So the way she explained the story to me was, I was pissing myself the whole way, but this is what you need to know. Okay. We pull up at the airport. Yeah. She gets in the queue with my dad. I'm in the car park, parking the car. Yeah. She gets in the queue with my dad to check in. Yeah. And she's like, in the queue, there's a yapper. We'll call him Mr. Yapper. There's a guy who's just talking.
There's type of yapper.
And he's there with his children or his daughter. Yeah. And he just happened, and he's just like one of those people that's just like he's from Tunisia, and he's just yapping, right? Yeah. And she was like, just remember the yapper, yeah? He's just talking all sorts, and I was like, I knew he was going to be a nuisance. Get to the gate. Yeah. My sister's like really tired, delusional, or whatever. She gets on the plane. She's like falling asleep. And before she looks around, the plane's relatively full. Yeah. 2 rows behind her is Mr. Yapper.
Mr. Yapper.
Of course. Her road was relatively empty, and then she goes, out of nowhere, I see the yapper go, "Oh, there's a space next to her." And someone ends up coming sitting like, but she's got a space in the middle, so she's still calm. Okay. And then, of course. And then she goes to sleep, and then out of nowhere, she was like, "I feel a change in gravity," and I just wake up. So like, it's as if the plane did this.
Wow.
Right? So the plane does that.
I feel it in my belly already. Just by saying that.
And enough to wake her up, and she has no idea what's going on. And she looks down the aisle. She's on the aisle seat. Okay. She looks down, and there's a woman on the floor, head in aisle 1, but by aisle 3 where my sister sat. Oh my God. And she was like, "I knew my flight was going to be dodgy when the pilot walked in after me." Like when she checked, like at the beginning, she was like,
"That's so funny."
And I was like,
not prepared. He's like running late for his flight.
So she was like, "I knew it was going to be dodgy." So I opened it, and I was like, and because she's dazed, just because she hasn't slept all night, she doesn't really know what's going on.
It's a dream.
She's so confused. And obviously what happened in the moment is there was a woman who was unconscious. Yeah. And so they had gotten her out of the aisle and laid her down by the front. And the stewardess were like, "Is there any doctors on board? Anything like that?" And 2 people came running to try and help. And then the pilot had come out of his thing to try and assess the situation. And you might know this from medical purposes. I didn't know this, but apparently they were keeping her legs lifted to avoid blood clots or something. Okay, so like as she was laying down, her legs, like the stewardess and the pilot were like lifting her legs. But what my sister said was the most disturbing thing about the whole thing is they never really said much. Okay. They didn't. They were just like, "Oh, just guys, sit down and relax," or whatever. But no one really said what was going on. No one said where they were heading. No one was doing anything.
Oh, I see.
She was just like, everyone in the dark
now already.
No one knows. Still assessing. No one knows. No one like. There's just the plane's just flying. There are oxygen masks dropping.
Oh,
all sorts, and you're just there like,
real.
and nothing, no one's saying anything,
Just
right?
thinking, what do we do?
And so
you just go back to sleep, or
and she's just there like, and then she's like, and then out of nowhere, Mr. Yapper gets up from his seat, comes out into the aisle, and sits on row 1 where they're all like, and just sits there and starts.
No way!
Looking, just watching, like, commentating, and be like,
wow!
Like, who does he think he is?
I know he's looking.
Who does he think he is?
About.
He's looking for he wants to get involved.
He wants to get involved.
And she's just like, I have no idea. And she was like, and I don't really remember, like, it was all confusing. And the next thing I know, we've just landed. We've landed, like,
So
and no one's really said anything. It's trying to calm us down. We've just landed, and then she doesn't know where they are. They haven't told them where they are. I was like, how did you find out where you were? She was like, I took my phone off airplane mode. I get a little text from EE. It's like, welcome to Italy. Welcome to Italy. She's like, what? And that's when she WhatsApped our family group chat, being like, oh, by the way, guys, emergency landing. I'm in Italy.
Yeah. That must have been so confused.
And it must have been like it wasn't a commercial airport. It must have been like an army airport or something, or somewhere like
just somewhere, a base where they could have just landed.
Somewhere they had to just do an emergency landing. And she was like, we were there for ages. And the craziest thing is they wouldn't let this. Basically, got there, out the window you could see the ambulances and paramedics. Walked up the steps, and they wouldn't get on the plane. And apparently, because of the visa situation, they couldn't let the woman. Like, they it was like an international thing. Like, so the
bureaucracy,
right? So they were like, we can't give you our equipment to use. The doctors were like, you need to take her. This is life and death. It's like, we can't. Like, you literally have to radio through. And the woman's on the floor unconscious. And I was like, this is crazy. This is also crazy. She's like, it took forever. And Mr. Yapper's there just narrating things and saying, have you tried this? And then she was like, I heard the woman, the stewardess, be like, if people could keep their opinions to themselves, it'd be very helpful or something like that. And I was like, I can't imagine how crazy that whole situation was, especially when you're really tired and out of it. And she was front row seats to it all because she was right at the front,
with Mr. Yapper,
listening to, with Mr. Yapper, of course, witnessing everything that was going on. And she was like, after a little time went by, got the person off the plane, and then they were waiting and getting the thing ready. Yeah, so they sorted all that. They waited a while, and you're like, we just need to refuel the plane, and that took a while. My sister was like, it took longer than usual, but I overheard Mr. Yapper was overhearing them speak, and Mr. Yapper told us that apparently because the landing was so bad and everything was emergency, that they had to replace a wheel.
Wow!
And I was like, this sounds like something out of a movie.
Way too intense.
Yeah, so that was the story.
I really wonder how long
so they were meant to land.
So was there anyone on the plane that could have helped? That helped? Or was it just
there was 2 doctors there, but they just didn't have enough equipment to be able to
really do anything.
Really do anything. And I think, I'll let you react how you want to that, because that's a crazy story. But 2 things came away from that story for me. Two funny, not funny at all. 2 things came away, because I hope the woman's fine. They obviously managed to sort the visa out and whatnot. But the first thing was, as this was happening, I told you I was having lunch with my dad and whatnot. At this point, my dad turned around to me and goes, I've been in those situations a few times. I was like, what? Wow. He goes, I've been the doctor on call. Like, doctor on call.
Maybe you just took it so lightly.
He said it so lightly at lunch. I was like, I've known you 20 plus years. You've never once said. He's like, I've been called 5-6 times before to deal with people. Like, it's never been like life threatening or anything, but I've had to come and intervene and provide services. I was like, wow.
Wow, that's incredible.
Fair enough. And we've flown a lot. Like, I've never been in a situation like that, and pray not to be. But the other thing I thought was really weird, not really weird, a tangent that came onto my mind was, do you think someone in the past ever has faked an illness on a plane, snuggled, was then taken to a hospital in a country, and escaped? Which is why they have this whole visa malarkey. So they know who the person is. Do you know what I mean?
That would be a very...
This is a conspiracy theory now, but do you know what I mean? Because why would they be like, there's someone dying, we're not going to let them on until we're not going to let them in the country until they have the visa.
I wonder if there's because they don't want it to be on them. But then if there's someone's life, I mean, it's a risky one, isn't it? Because they're thinking if something does happen, and then they come looking for someone, they'll be like, oh, who let them into the country? then they'll be like, oh, they
What?
did.
But then if they had something happen on the plane, it'd be like, who didn't let them in the country?
But then they'll be like, it's not up to us, I guess, because they didn't have the visa. But I think in that case,
So my conspiracy is a bit too far.
Yeah, maybe a bit.
I wouldn't put it past someone. So like
but
people,
it's not. It doesn't seem like a crazy idea, right? You just need to book a ticket, and then
you could have, like in movies where people have like those pills they take to like stop their heart or something, or like someone could have done that and then got to the hospital and then just escaped and become an illegal. Like,
wow.
Do you know what I mean?
You've got the wildest conspiracy.
It's literally. I was like, because why else would you really want to enforce a visa on someone who's dying?
And someone who's dying. So what were you expecting to happen?
You're in an international. I don't know.
I don't know, but I think
I don't know how the laws work.
The law and the bureaucracy before someone's health.
That's crazy to me. I would go wild if that was my parent or someone.
I don't see what other situations that would happen in.
Because what I'm saying is I don't know what the laws are in terms of like, is it is that international jurisdiction on that plane? Is it Tunisian laws because it's come from a Tunisian country? Is it? Do you know what I mean?
I know that, for instance, if you're on the flight to America, let's say, and you're pregnant and then you give birth on that flight, then that person is American.
Can be American. Okay, yeah.
And they get the US citizenship. So, and that's just on the flight there. So in that case, does that mean if the flight is going to that country, that means it's actually the laws of that country?
Of that country, yeah.
So maybe.
I see what you mean. Very interesting.
Don't quote me on that.
I'm sure there's.
And what did your dad comment on it at all, other than I've been called him?
Nah, he was just so casual about it. I tried to interrogate it, but it was nonchalant answers. He was like, it just happened a few times in my travel career.
Eyes in his veins. I think you're gonna need that
as a doctor
in that career, right? You really must.
Yeah. You're going to need to. You might be on a plane and you're going to be the doctor on call.
So it's good to hear about these stories. Maybe the more stories you hear, the more situations you hear about, the more used to it you become.
Yeah,
therefore, it doesn't become as scary.
Yeah, but he has a habit to be like. One time he was like, so we had people from Ghana staying in our house once, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, I remember Ghana. I've been there a few times. Really lovely country. And proceeded to just casually go, I went traveling on work there once.
Yeah.
And I was on a plane. It's quite an old plane, like it was like a 2-seater each side, whatever. 2 weeks later, I had a work colleague who was on said same plane, and the plane broke in half.
Wow.
And my dad was like, the exact same plane, exact same trajectory, exact same like flight.
Wow.
Plane broke in half, and his colleague, like the plane broke in front of him.
Yeah.
And he was in a coma for like a few months and whatnot. And my dad just casually said that and just like left the living room then. And he was like, yeah. Love Ghana.
Nothing can
my mom was like,
yeah, hold on a second. I feel like nothing can faze him. I feel like when you've done such wild things, just must be on a regular day-to-day basis.
Yeah, because I was like, I've been on planes, been in turbulence, nothing crazy's happened. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I haven't been on anything crazy, but it does remind me of. I'm now doing the medical school. We talked about it, and it's interesting to hear about what everyone wants to do.
Right.
And recently, I was talking to this one guy, and he was like, "Well, straight after I finish studying, I want to then go and learn how to fly planes." I was like, "Well,
okay,
okay." Like
after finishing medical school.
Yeah, he wants to now learn how to be a pilot.
So he wants to be a doctor, pilot, astronaut.
There's one of those actually, but that's for another time.
Oh, okay.
But he wants to learn how to fly planes, so then he can go to Australia, or sometimes those areas where you need to fly a plane to get to people. So he wants to be able to. He wants the excitement. He wants
a plane doctor.
Yeah, a plane doctor. So
he's like a paramedic.
Pretty much a paramedic. So, but he wants to be able to also fly the plane himself.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Because it's like an ambulance.
There's then parachute out.
Yeah. Someone who drives an ambulance can do the work, but also drive.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So,
and I think it's like in Venice. You have to learn to drive a boat.
That's true.
I have it on video somewhere because there was like an ambulance, like
if you want to be like a paramedic or a doctor.
Yeah, because there's
it's true. That's
you have to be on the boat. Of course.
But not the gondolas, right? Or what do you call it?
There was no speed.
Just them punting your way to the emergency. Okay.
Yeah, so that's that plane story. That was crazy.
That's great. That's great.
That's
just very interesting.
So what else? I've never experienced that. I don't know anyone in my circles that's experienced anything like that before.
I hope that was alright.
And I hope that woman is alright too.
Yeah.
I
wonder how long it took for her to make it back to England.
Yeah. They were like,
and if she did get better, if they hassled her again about her visa,
like, when are you leaving the country?
Exactly.
Now that you're better, we need you to go.
Like, where's your visa, please? Oh, wow. But what the Cajun boss, of course, even though we're Manchester, I think we thought it's important to keep the cage constant.
I'm gonna pick for you.
Yes, I think
and I think it's a good opportunity. I'm actually this little jazz man in the background. I think it's time you
get him out. I don't know if I get it out if I break anything, but yes, Mr. Here, Mr. Saxophonist. Nah, so for me, growing up, I was always into sports, into football.
That was your
kind of consumed me. I played for professional youth team, so it was constant. We actually trained Monday to Friday. No, we had Monday to Thursday, rest on Friday, then Saturday training and Sunday game. Pretty much throughout GCSEs, and then through A level, played again.
You were non-stop.
Scholarship, yeah, exactly. So I never really got to explore anything creative. Exactly. I wish I had the opportunity to, but I never did. But after kind of ending my career, I thought this is a good opportunity. Knee injury, and also
I'm joking. People are like,
typical, right? Typical knee injury.
You do actually have a knee injury.
If I didn't have my knee injury, I would have made it. But no, not just that, but also got steered towards medicine as well.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other story. We'll definitely probably talk about another time. So since then, I've been going towards medicine, and also had more time to explore other hobbies other than football.
But I'm so curious. Obviously, we can see by now it's a saxophone.
Yes.
And what's funny for me is that when you told me, and I'm gonna find the text so I can put it up. Like, I didn't believe you because I thought you were having me on. I
wonder if I said I want to, or did I say?
No, you said I'm learning the saxophone, or I bought a saxophone. And I was like, you're such
because of course I've never done anything like this. It's just always been football. So the one chance I got, I was like, I have to take it now.
Why saxophone?
I think if you listen to Afrobeats or jazz, the music that I like to listen to, when there's a saxophone, it always sounds so beautiful, so beautiful. And
it's quite a unique instrument.
Yeah, it really gets you. It really touches your bones. Honestly, it gets you going. And also, it was one of the easier ones to learn. Like I feel like if I tried to learn the violin, as compared to the violin.
Right, that's what chance.
It's
easier. It's like guitar is quite basic.
Yeah,
it's not basic.
If we're comparing it maybe to the violin, but if you're looking for sound and the music, I like to listen to jazz, especially like the '60s type jazz, like Ornette Coleman in America, anyways. It was right up my street. So I decided to just do it. Honestly, just do it. Bought the saxophone. Got a tutor, Andre. Shout out to Andre.
Yeah,
he's a cool man, honestly. Yeah. In his 70s.
Is he?
Just like to improvise. Yeah. Oh. I just picked up the saxophone and he was like, "Hey, let's start improvising." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And he was like, "Nah, I want you to feel the rhythm and all that." So for him, it was all about the sensual feeling and being creative, and not just learning by the book, which he said was also important. But a big part of it is just being creative and feeling the music. And I love that, because then you really can't really have two thoughts. You can't be worrying about anything else if you're just there.
You're in the moment.
Yeah, whilst you're trying to be in the moment and feel the music and learn this song or be creative in this space. And I love that that you can just clear your mind. So since then I've enjoyed trying to learn. It's been challenging, I can't lie to you. It's been very difficult. It's like learning a new language, to be honest. I don't know if you've ever tried learning a new language. Yeah. But it's very difficult. There's a lot of setbacks. But when you get it right,
there must be a level of...
It's very rewarding.
Yeah. And what I liked, this is a slight tangent, but what I liked, I guess it's a good time to be like, wait, is our intro that I was like, I feel like we got to keep it authentic to ourselves and stick to the skills and strengths that we have. Yeah. So I was like, I think it's worth using your saxophone skills as an intro.
Yes. So you guys
you said an improv at one point, and I really liked it. And I thought this is something that we can use. So hopefully people can put two and two together and be like, oh,
you know where it's coming from now. You know where it's coming from.
That's where it's been used. That's where we got the inspiration from. And so, what do you think is the hardest thing about learning the saxophone?
I think you have to enjoy making mistakes, and not be discouraged by it, and see the long work. Oh my goodness, that the physical side of it, definitely, that's part of it. But it's more about how it's a long term thing that you have to think about.
Yeah,
it's not something that you get straight away, and you have to constantly practice, bit by bit, little by little. I think that can be hard sometimes because you're thinking, it's been however long, and I'm still not just being able to play like the people that you listen to, which is kind of what you want to be able to do, but it would just take time. No,
I think it's cool, and I think I respect that you're learning the instrument because it's not easy. And I think for me, what's crazy is that one time I think you came to mine. We were just chilling, and you stayed over, and I was upstairs in my room. You must have stayed downstairs, like in the spare room, and I don't think I knew you had your saxophone, or like I'd heard you play it before. And you woke me up in the morning, and there was a saxophone at the bottom of my stairs, and I was like, "What in the world?"
Oh my goodness!
But it was good.
I mean, that reminds me of one of my favorite places. I lived in America for 4 years.
Yeah,
and the place that really took and stole my heart was New Orleans. If you want to listen to jazz or even saxophone,
the whole place, trumpets. Isn't that the birthplace of?
Yeah, exactly. There's so much jazz there and so much culture there, music and things like that. So the fact that you can just walk around and there's just jazz bands everywhere playing, outside cafes, outside restaurants, outside bookstores, outside shopping places. It's just everywhere, and it's just so beautiful. It's just to walk and listen to them. You can stop by.
Sorry, this is the epitome of student living.
Yeah. So just remember that this is uni or com still. So don't judge me. So, so jazz bars. Fully recommend New Orleans if you're ever around that area. But especially if you're into music.
Okay, now that's your open. So I guess hopefully we'll get a section one time where you do play some live on the pod.
Live on the pod
or something, or would you have aspirations to do like a bar or something? Or
yes, I think there'll come a time where I think I need to hop on like open mics. I know I have a favorite jazz bar that we're hopefully going to visit tonight.
I'm looking forward to that.
They do open mics, so getting to play a favorite jazz bar would be definitely an ideal situation for me and a goal to have.
Okay. So is it good with the ladies?
Can be.
I play the saxophone.
You just need to find the right one.
I'm sure that would
play the saxophone to
serenade
her.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you for Mr. Jazzman. Yes. Yeah. I like this. It's
really nice, isn't it?
The statue.
Really nice gift. I think I'm going to go for the notebook.
The notebook.
I don't know if it's you put it there, so it has to mean something.
It does have to mean something. What does it mean?
That's a good question, right? What does it mean to you?
What does it mean to me?
So what do you use the notebook for then? We can start with that.
Nothing at the moment. It's empty.
So it's empty one.
Yeah.
So looking at potential. And what does that have the potential for?
There's two sides of it. I think for me, I've always wanted to journal.
Okay.
Because I have so many thoughts. Yes. I want to get them out paper. Out there.
It's a great size. Actually, I love the size.
But also, I guess I've always been so intrigued in detective stuff, Sherlock Holmes, crimes, things like that, right? So when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is really cute. This is really just I can be like.
You can always put it in the back of your pocket. That's what I love about
it. It fits into everything, and it was just more like.
That's very. I like that a lot.
And I always thought maybe in another life I could have been like an FBI agent or like an old school detective or something like that. Stuff that just like anything problem solving related.
Solving puzzles.
And as you can see, it's quite like like the outside of the puzzles.
Yeah, exactly.
Equations and whatnot. But I think it signifies a habit that I do want to bring into 2024.
Okay.
And maybe holding myself accountable is why I put out there and be like, actually, I bought this notebook time ago, like some point early last year,
okay.
if not, yeah. And so I've always thought, from a mental health perspective, for me anyways, as someone who overthinks a lot, and like it's important to regulate that by being able to articulate that and get it out somewhere. Yeah, this is something, like you said, it's so easy to have on you, to bring with you everywhere, and just being able to put something out there.
Yeah,
you know, nothing really is an issue if you can articulate it out loud in that sense, right? You know, like in your head, it's on paper, it's just like, oh, it's just a few words.
Solve it, almost resolve it.
So I think that's why I brought this.
That's a very good point.
I'm not sure if you're a journaler yourself, but
I think we have plenty of thoughts throughout the day, and sometimes you do have great ideas, but you never put it down anywhere, so you inevitably lose it. Especially with you, who's very creative, always having thoughts and ideas and new things that you're thinking about. It's good to have that in your back pocket. But for me, it's particularly also when I'm trying to focus on a task. Sometimes you can be distracted by your thoughts. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever had that, where you just, maybe you could be reading and then you go on a tangent somewhere and you're like, oh, what was that? What have I just been reading? So one thing that I've tried to do is have a journal or a book or whatever like that I can note down. So then if I'm studying and I have those thoughts, to continue focusing, I can just write down the thought. I never lose it. It's still there. Yeah. I'll just pick it up later and I can just come back to focusing here. So I think that's one thing, and I've always picked it up late, but tried to anyway. Yeah. So that's one thing I've used my journal for, and I recommend it honestly to help stay focused and concentrated, especially if you've got exams on the way or whatever. Or you're trying to just get better with focusing on whatever.
Yeah. So for you, it's very academic, It
has been so far.
I think for me,
beginning uni.
I guess because I'm filming using my phone. I guess what I've had to do more recently, especially in terms of creativity and wise, I remember seeing a skill or an idea. Someone was like, when funny things happen or when things happen in everyday life, try to find the funny in them. But to find the funny in them, you need to remember them, right? Yeah, so I haven't done it on here, but in my phone, in my notes section now, it's like kind of full of things that I just experience in everyday life. So I guess maybe it's trying to symbolize that as well and be like, it's something that I need to keep doing at all times, because that was hilarious, that thing that happened that I can't remember. You're like, I really wanted to share.
Imagine that was so frustrating. So the issue with using your phone when you're studying those, because you don't want to be enticed. Have you ever just gone to do something on Instagram? Maybe just message someone. Yeah. And then inevitably you find yourself scrolling.
Always happens.
So to avoid any stuff like that, having a good notebook, notepad, whatever it is, journal, so just write down those thoughts, and then you're not being distracted by your phone as well.
Beautiful. Lovely. I think that's a nice way to end it.
Honestly. Yeah. What have we talked about? We've covered so much again. It's crazy. We talked about mentors. We talked about the important word of the day, resourcement. I'm going to right. Yes. So I'm going to ask you so many like resourcement. Where could you guys see yourself trying to reconnect to? Where maybe your upbringing or placed geographically, or maybe people that you feel like raised you and were there with you from the beginning? How can you, using the word resourcement, reconnect with those people and or that place? So think about that. I think that's something definitely worth thinking about.
100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys, and shalom.